Hi, this video is for everybody in 1st to 4th grade in Weymouth School. So for this week, we are going to be working in Google. So you will need to have your Google sign in, right? And if you're working on a Chromebook, which most people are, you would sign into Google. And your screen should look something like this. And what we're going to do today is we're going to learn a little bit, and you might know some already. You might know how to do some things, maybe not others, but we're going to work a little bit in Google Docs. Google Docs is what's called a word processor, and it's a program that we can use to type letters, type paragraphs, make signs, and a lot of different things that have to do with words, paragraphs, reports, typing, things like that. So we're going to first get to Google Docs by clicking on our app browser, and then in our app browser we see all the available apps that Google has for us. We are going to be using a lot of these this year, not all of them, but Google Docs is always in a bluish color, and it's right here. It says Docs, so we're going to give it a click. Now, once you do that, you may see that you already have some Google Docs down here saved. It could have been things that your teacher shared with you from your classroom and you worked on, or they had as assignments that you worked on. If there's things that you did in my class when we did that sample fun quiz, or watch the animal adaptation video, you worked in a Google Doc, so they're automatically shown right here, any Google Docs that you have or that you've worked on. Now we're going to start a brand new one today. So we're going to start with a fresh blank page by clicking right here where it says blank. Alright, and once that opens up, it has so many different options and tools and things we can do and features, and so many of them are really cool, and we're going to learn a couple of them today. Now, for my 4th graders, maybe a little bit 3rd graders, you may have seen some of these before, but we want to make sure that everybody has a really good knowledge and idea of exactly how they're used. And for 1st and 2nd graders, where this is totally brand new, and you may have done a little bit in the last 2 weeks, but for this school year it's totally brand new, I want to try to take you guys through many of the common features that you'll use in Google Docs and some things that you may use it for. So let's start by talking about the name of the doc. If you see right here, it starts off as an untitled document, and that's pretty much what it's going to start as every time you have a brand new Google Doc. What it's best to do is give that a name. So for today, we're going to just call this Computer Class, and that's it. Computer Class. We're just going to type in that for today. That's going to be the name of our doc, and we're going to click off of it. Now, if we decided later on to change that, and like I mentioned in the notes for today, this is actually a part 1 we're going to work on, and then part 2 next week. And so maybe in part 2 we'll see that there's a reason we might want to change that name. It's very simple and easy to do, but we called it Computer Class for now. And you see right here there's a flashing cursor. That cursor is flashing, but it's not exactly at the top. It's not exactly on the side. It's a little bit inwards because there's a margin that you can't type in all around it. So it's like an imaginary space up here at the top, on the left, on the right, and at the bottom, if we got down that far, where it's going to leave that space so that your words are a little more centered on the page, and there's an edge where things aren't typed and there's no text or anything else. Now, the first thing that everybody could easily do is type in their name. So let's start with that. We're going to try to type in your name. So type in your name right now, and I'm going to type Mr. Henderson. Now, for my 4th grade students, you should easily be able to put in first name, last name, have them capitalized correctly. For my 1st and 2nd graders, if you guys just put in your first name, if you don't have it capitalized correctly, we're not too worried about that right now. If you have an adult helping you, that's great to do. But this is a very beginning tutorial, a very start, so just do the best that you can for your age level. So that's what we put on the first line, and that came up in regular text, and now we see that the cursor is flashing after it, because wherever that cursor is flashing, that's where the Google Doc is ready to put things in next. Now, I don't want to type the next thing right where that cursor is. What I actually want to do is go down a line. And so it's very simple. Whenever you want to go down a line, you press a key on the keyboard that's called Enter, or on some keyboards, Return. So I'm going to press Enter or Return, go down one line, and then press it one more time to go down the second line. Alright, now on the second line, what we want to put is the date. So we'll put a date and we'll do a little something else to it. I'm going to put in September 30th, I did a comma space, 2020. September 30th, 2020. And again, I'm going to go and press Enter 2 times. So what that did is it put an extra space between each line, gave it an extra blank line between each. Now, I like what I've done so far. It's pretty simple, but what if I wanted to make it look different? There's a lot of ways to do that in Google Docs. So the first thing is that for my name, I might want my name in a different color. I already typed it though. It's already black. It's already in a certain font or a shape that those letters look. So what I have to do if I want to change that is I have to go and select what I want to change. So I'm going to go at the end of my name or at the beginning of my name. Either way, click my mouse button and hold and drag to select what I want to change. And you'll see it highlighted in blue. Anything that I want to change, it has to be highlighted in blue if I already typed it. So I want to change the color of Mr. Henderson. Let's do that now. Up here in the menu bar, you see so many different buttons, so many things to press, and one of them is a letter A with a colored line underneath, and that line right now is black. You'll see it change in just a minute, but when I click on that, it's going to give me a lot of colors. These are not the only colors you can pick. They're not all the colors that are there, but just for the beginning, this is what we're going to stick with for right now. So you see that it has tons of colors. It has different shades of those colors going from lighter to darker. And so for me, I'm going to make my name in a green like that by giving it a click. If you wanted to make yours a purple, a red, an orange, a yellow, whatever you would like, that is perfectly fine. The one quick side note I'll say is that we want it to be readable. So, ready? Would we want to make it white? Would I have wanted to change the color of my name to white? No, that's not going to work too well because it's going to make it look like it disappeared, even though it's still there. There are times when we would want to make our text white, and we might do that in the future or maybe in part 2 of this lesson. But for now, I'm going to leave that text green. Okay? And you made it your color that you like. Now, that changed the color of my text, so that's getting a little bit more interesting. But what about my date now? What can I do with that? Well, let's again select that by either clicking before or after and dragging. And let's do a couple things. Let's make it a little bigger, right? So you see this number right here. This is the font size. It's also called the point. And it's at an 11. That's what it starts at. But we can do one of two things. We can either click the drop down arrow next to it and pick one of the other sizes, or we can type right in this box and type in a number that you can make that font size. Now, I don't want it to be any smaller, right? I want it to be a little bit bigger. I don't want it to be too big. So I'm going to show you, if I pick the number 96, oh my goodness, that's taking up a lot of my page. I don't want it to be that big. I'm going to click undo right here. So I don't want it to be 96. I want it to be maybe something like a 30. I like that. I think it looks good. Do you have to make yours a 30? No. You could click on the 24. You could click on the 18. You could click on the 30. You could click on the 36. Anywhere in those would be good. Or if you want to try, you could try typing in a number. Like maybe I'll change mine to 32. 32 wasn't in this list right here, but I can type it in and then hit my enter or return key and it will make it that 32. So here's what I'm going to say. And for my first and second graders, you might need a little help with this, but hopefully you have that or anybody can do it. I want to make this date somewhere between, my font size somewhere between 12 and 36, right? So I want to make that font size between 12 and 36. You pick if you want yours to be 24, if you want yours to be 28, any number between 12 and 36, go ahead and make that date. But that's not all. We already learned how to change the color, so why don't you go ahead and do that really quickly to a color that you would like. I'm going to make mine a yellow. And then we're going to do something that's really awesome. We're going to change the font, the word font, right? And that means the shape of those letters. Because right now it's in a very plain font. And that's good sometimes. Plain fonts work really well for some reasons, but we want to see how to make it different. So we're going to go and we're going to click right here where right now it says Arial. And if we look down, right, scrolling through this list, and you could use, if you had a mouse, you could use the wheel on your mouse. If you're using your trackpad, you might click this bar on the side and drag down. And you can now pick from any of these fonts, any that you like. I'll also show you for today. Let's pick one first. So I picked one. I think that looks a little fancier, a little nicer. So I might leave it like that. And you can look through, you can try them. You can go back and change them and try different ones and see what you think. They give you a little preview right here of what that might look like. So look at this nice one, Lobster. Oh, I do like that Lobster one. It gave me a preview of how it was going to look. And now when I put that as my date, I like it. But here's something so awesome about Google. With some other programs, like if you or your mom or dad or somebody helping you is used to Microsoft Word, to get new fonts into Microsoft Word, you can do it. And in other programs, you can add fonts, but it takes a little work. It takes a little know-how. You might have to look up on the internet, how do I add a font to this program? Google makes it so easy and convenient. Let's say you kind of are bored with the fonts that you start off with. You want something different. See this button at the top that says More Fonts? Look at this. It gives you a giant list, and don't ask me how many, because I'm not sure how many there are. It keeps going and going and going. There are so many, but it gives me a giant list of other fonts that I can add. Now, I just went through very quickly to show you that it's a huge list, but you can scroll through and see if there's ones that you like. I might point out a couple that are a few of my favorites. I like Pacifico. No, I passed that a little while. I like this one right here called, where'd it go? Permanent Marker. That's a nice one. Satisfy. That's a nice one. There's one called, and I have looked at these fonts a lot, so I remember there was one, and I don't see it right now, so I could keep scrolling and I could keep looking and just find ones that I like. But if I happen to remember the name, there was something that had to do with soda and cherry, and I don't remember the exact name. But if I use this search tool right here, I'm going to type in soda. Oh, there it is. I like this font, Cherry Cream Soda. So I'm going to click it, click OK, and that simply, it's now one of the fonts that I could use. All right, a small side note is that different fonts make your text look a different size. Now, this font is still the 32 that I put in before, but a 32 font in Cherry Cream Soda is a little bit of a different size than a 32 in Arial or a 32 in Lobster. It's something that's, you just kind of have to get used to, that even though your number of your font size or your point might stay the same, the size can change depending on the font. All right, so hopefully you've taken some time, you've taken a look at that, you've changed your font, and now we want to go down, and I'm going to use my arrow keys, right? Because I was working with this, but I remember I entered down 2 more times before. I followed that direction, right? That little detail. I entered down 2 more times before because I want to show you another thing. We changed those fonts and sizes by selecting and then making changes. But what if we know in advance? What if I know on this line I want to type in blue? Well, if I click my text color and click blue, and if I say I know on this line I want it to be an 18-point font, I can change that first. I can then say I know I want this line to be, let's say Georgia. That's the font I want to use, those tools that we already learned. If I know that in advance, I can go and change it. And now when I type, we'll say on this line, we're going to type whatever color we pick. So for me, I picked blue, so I'm going to type the word blue. it automatically will be that way and stay that way because I changed those settings to begin with. I don't have to go back and select because I knew what I wanted in advance and I set it up to type it that way. So how about for this line? If you like, or if you picked purple, type in purple. If you typed in yellow, type in yellow. Whatever color you picked, why don't we type that word on this line? And then we're going to press enter 2 more times and we'll do one last thing with that. Now, what do we notice about the 3 lines that we typed in? Well, we notice they all line up right here. They're different where this one ends, and this one ends. They're all different, but they all start and line up right here on the left. Let's show how we could change that. If we want something to line up on the right-hand side, we're going to change that. And we're going to do that with our name. Our name, we're going to make line up on the right-hand side instead of the left. So I'm going to click back on the line with my name, and I see my cursor flashing to show me I'm in the right spot. And now take a look at this section right here. This is my alignment. And in my alignment, it always starts off as aligning it, where everything lines up, to the left, and it gives you kind of a preview of how that looks. If I want my name to line up on the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and click this button right here called the Right Align. Click, and my name now lines up on the right. And if I went on and typed more on the next line, the next line, the next line, it would all line up on the right. For my date, let me click on that line with the date and make sure my cursor is flashing right after it. I want my date to be centered right in the middle. And I don't have to guess where the middle is. I don't have to go and use a ruler. I don't have to measure. I don't even have to think about it too much. If I click on that line with the date and it's lining up right now to the right, see how this button's highlighted, I want it to be in the center. So if I click right here, that will make that text line up in the center. I could either do it by one line at a time like this, or if I had a whole document, if I wanted everything on the page to line up one way, I could use my cursor, use my mouse, click to select and drag, and anything that I want to line up a certain way, I could do it all at once. But I don't want that. That was just to show you guys. I have my name lined up on the right, my date lined up in the center or centered, and my third line with the color blue lined up on the left. Now, I'm going to end this video with one last thing that ties into a video I hope that you already watched that I made about how to take screenshots, okay? Because here's what we can do right now. We can take a screenshot and we can put that picture that we took into our document. Right now, my cursor's flashing on the last line that we went to, which is 2 lines down from our color, where I typed blue. My cursor's flashing there, and that's where I want the picture to go. If your cursor was still up here, if your cursor was still here, your cursor is somewhere else. You want to make it go down now so that it's below that word blue, or whatever color you chose, if your color's yellow, pink, red, orange, whatever. And if you watched my last video, we're going to take a screenshot now. So go ahead and take your screenshot by pressing Control and then that Show All Windows button. If you didn't happen to watch that video yet on how to take screenshots on your Chromebook, go ahead back and watch it now so that that makes sense to you, what I just said about pressing Control and then your Show All Windows button. And I apologize because mine, it happened too quickly in the video, and I edited the video so that it didn't show it, but in the box that popped up, I clicked Copy to Clipboard. So I copied my screenshot, and the very last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a paste. Now, if you know how to use your keyboard to do that, you could hold down Control and press V, or you could come up here and click Edit, Paste. And now I have a screenshot inside of my document, of my Google Doc, and it got inserted right where that cursor was flashing. Alright, so we just saw how to do a couple really cool things today in Google Docs. Now, how to save this, how to make sure your document is saved. Well, as long as you are connected to the internet, this will save automatically. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to go and manually save it. This will save by itself. It will be stored in your Google Drive, and you can see it in your Google Docs. And next week, when we do our part 2, we're going to look at a few other things we could do, plus more details about once that's saved, where to find it, where it is, things that you can then do with it. All right? So I hope you did a great job today, everybody, in 1st to 4th grade. And next week, we're going to continue doing a few more things with this Google Doc.